Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. It's so lovely to have you all here today this is a sacred day, a day that we are remembering and honoring and celebrating a beautiful life, the beautiful life of Monika Kretschmar, our dear, dear friend. And it's lovely to see everyone here because we all, of course, have something in common, our shared love for Monika. So I already feel a bond between all of us. And it's a beautiful energy that's here in the room, so we so appreciate you being here. And we know that Monika has touched all of our lives in a very beautiful way, and we really look forward to hearing from all of you, telling us your special stories, your remembrances, what you learned from her, funny stories, whatever you feel from your heart. We hope that you'll feel really comfortable. You're among friends sharing today so we can hear all those beautiful stories. So before starting, I should, introduce myself too. I'm Barbara Upton, and I want to thank the New Paltz Reformed Church for this exquisite room, and thank Barbara and Beth, who've been very helpful to us in coordinating all of this. And Will and Clifford, you're going to hear more about them in just a minute. I also want to thank Susa for organizing that beautiful food display back there. It's just extraordinary. And Eileen had the fabulous idea of displaying her artwork. And Eileen did a beautiful job with that, and thank her for that. And what I'd really love to do is start by listening to you folks. So who'd like to get us off to a nice start? Talking about Monika, their memories, anything they'd like to share today.
I have so many beautiful memories of Monika, but one of the strongest ones are connected to her inner voice drawing, her beautiful, inspirational, intuitive drawing method that takes you right to the wisdom of your heart, and she taught me how to do that. And so she brought me back in touch and in contact with my own inner voice. I also have lovely remembrances of going to the bakery and editing each other's manuscripts. It was great fun. But my most heartfelt memories were this past year of sharing a passion in my life, which is Jinshin Jitsu with Monika, and those quiet moments together of just allowing the beautiful energy of the universe to enter into both of our beings and to share that together. I love you, Monika, and I miss you.
Okay, Monika has been really nice to me ever since me and my mom started going from wife to Dr. Jordan's. She's been helping my mom and me a lot. She's just made a great friend. And when she passed, it was kind of sad, but I know she's still our friend.
Will and Monika go back a long way. They were married at one point, and then they were just best friends forever. And Will, especially in the last couple of years, has just been phenomenal. If you ever went down to Sloan Kettering to visit Monika, you saw Will. He was there morning, noon, and night. He was always by her side. He was her major encourager, supporter, comforter. And in addition to all that wonderfulness, he also did the chronicling of her whole journey that he would send to us on the healing team. And his posts were just so entertaining and so witty and bright. And he had his own photography that accompanied it, and he's an excellent photographer, so we were really treated. And it was really wonderful because it helped us all. If we couldn't be there every step of the way, we felt we were because Will really helped us to be there with her every step of the way. And we're really indebted to you, Will, for that. And so, yeah, without any further ado, let me introduce Mr. Wonderful himself, Will Borstein.
Hard to know what to say about someone who's been such a big part of my life for 20 years. So usually when I don't know what to do, what to say, I'm engaging in something I would, for the last 20 years, call upon Monika. So once again, she's come through, partly thanks to Eileen and a friend of Eileen's who made a suggestion that sometimes people like to write letters or something for after they, is this one? After they pass away. So I asked Monika if she wanted to do that, and she was interested, so I brought her some paper, and I asked her if she wanted help with, she wanted to dictate. She said, no. But every night, she wanted this notebook placed by her bed where she could reach it. And so I never knew if there was anything written in it. And then after we went to the hospice and moved there, and then I took it home, I still didn't know. And I saw there was something in it, but I didn't read it until, I was just going to read it at the last memorial, but I thought, oh, maybe I can't read the handwriting. So I read it the night before, and I actually typed it up because it's much easier to read, and I will read what she wrote. It says on the top, eulogy. And also she's very honest. In that last letter, she said, this is not goodbye. So there was more. My dear friends, I would like to express my gratitude to you and your dedicated love, but I don't even know where to begin. And I guess not knowing where to begin is kind of a good start. Where do we start out in recounting our journey? We look at the highlights, the lowlights, the major events. One of the nurses told me, people say, be who you are, but how do I know who I really am? We are amazing beings, capable of unconditional love, wisdom, and yet most of the time distracted from that. And the couple spots that were a little hard, I think she meant most of the time engaged in pursuit of happiness on a more superficial level, such as having a good time. I know it all too well. Often in the evenings, when we got amazing teachings from Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, her teacher in Nepal, into recognizing the true nature of our limitless Buddha mind, he would release us, wishing us a good night. But most of the time, our relaxation was more about being drowned in glasses of wine, singing pop songs to Poe's guitar, and rather being stupefied than being alert to our true nature. It's so easy to fall back into old habits, having a good time. And then life's challenges befall us that make living harder and question our way of life. And that's where it ends. And the other thing that was in this notebook, somewhere in the middle, well, there's one drawing. I can't find it now. I was going to project it, but that didn't seem to work. Oh, too well. But it's a very simple little drawing that seems to be, oh, here we are. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, well, I can just set it up here and everyone can look at it. But it seems so full of love and connection. So I thought about what I might say and was kind of aligned with what I think she was saying. So why are we all here, and what drew us to Monika and made her instantly so important to us? She had so many great qualities. And I asked my friend Colleen, how am I going to figure out what to say in just a few minutes? And she hardly knew her. She just met Monika twice, very briefly. And she said, well, she just lit up the room. But why was that? And I think that the main point sort of underlying all of the other qualities was that she really believed in us. And she really deeply cared about us. And even when we didn't believe in ourselves, I think she believed in us. And us being, not just people here in the room, but It's a very big us. Yeah, people all over the world. She was certainly very generous. She didn't have very much material wealth during probably the time most of us knew her, but still she was incredibly generous. And funny story, I never thought I would hear her say this, but when she was in the hospital during the, I don't know, about a week, I think, before she passed, when she realized she wasn't going to go home, and knew she would have to, other people would have to deal with her things. She said 3 times, "I wish I had more things. I wish I had more things." And it was so she could, have more things to give to people. One thing I wanted to say is I've heard many people say, and I know I said the same thing myself, that often people would say, "Oh, that's Monika, that she would just be this way and she was different from us," and that came naturally. And also sort of, we couldn't be like that. But that's really, nothing's farther from the truth. She struggled in all the same ways with all the same kind of things throughout her life. But she really worked hard, with her mind. And, this question that the nurse asked, who am I? And how can I really fully be that person? I don't know how many of you heard the story, but I've heard her tell this several times over the last year about how she connected with Buddhism. And she describes being 14 and her godfather had a big library and there were a lot of Buddhist books. I hope I'm not taking your story. And this goes well with the images because she talks about, she had long pigtails, about how she realized that she didn't have to wait for God or someone else, that she herself could just pull herself out of the mud. And she had this vision of kind of taking herself by her pigtails and pulling herself up. When you see the pictures, it's kind of striking. And she thought this was so empowering, that she would be able to work through this herself and create her own karma. And then there was also something very familiar about when she read this, that it was, she said, "Oh man, I'm home. This feels like home." But that too wasn't the end of that story, because she started meditating on her own. And even when she first met her teacher, she didn't. She thought, "I don't need anybody. I can do this by myself." So she went through all the things. It was she said, how much pride and arrogance and stubbornness she had. So it wasn't until later, when she spent more time with him, that she realized sort of how, he pointed out how she was kind of on the wrong track. And then it was actually much harder than starting the right way, because she had to undo a lot of habits she'd made. Let's see. I think I was most inspired by Monika when she was really up against her limits. And that happened a number of times during the last 2 years. This thing is the bar kind of got set higher and higher. And she and another Buddhist friend who was also going through a challenge with an illness, she said, now we're in the advanced course. And I think the two of them really did well in that class. But Monika was always concerned about others, and during the whole illness, she really maintained that. And a number of you drove Monika down to Sloan Kettering, and be in the waiting room waiting for chemo, and she would talk about this person and that person, and some of them looked totally fine to me. And Monika, maybe seemed like she was in bad shape. And to Monika, she was just so concerned about them, and it was as if she was fine. And there were 2 times when she said to me, she was in a lot of pain, and she said, I can't really. She was so distressed, and it wasn't because of the pain, but it was because she couldn't think of the other people. So, but she's hung in there, and she, that never really lasted very long, even though the pain was there. And in fact, that one of the last things that I heard her say was at the hospice place, that when we got onto she came from Sloan Kettering by ambulance, and the place was a bit of a shock, and she was brought up to the 4th floor where her room would be, and being wheeled down the hall. And 2 doors from where she was going to be, there was a woman in the hall who was just sobbing and wailing, and I assume maybe her mother was very close to death in that room. And Monika looked at us, and she smiled, and she said, "You got to work on her." Let's see. And someone who's probably in this room, but I don't know who it was, said once that during this illness, when they saw Monika, that she had the most hardships and the biggest challenges. But among everyone she would see in a month, Monika was the most joyful and the most uplifted. And I mean, that's probably true for all of us. That was certainly true for me. Pretty extraordinary. And I don't know if it's a memorial service, if we have to have some quote from scripture, but this one line kept going through my head. It's from Shantideva, who lived in the 8th century Buddhist monk, Bodhisattva. Said that all the suffering there is in this world results from wishing ourselves to be happy, and all the happiness there is in this world arises from wishing others to be happy. I think, it seems so well borne out by the way Monika was. And I think what really impressed me the most is that when Monika was in a situation where someone was treating her or others badly, where many people would just get angry or walk away or give up, Monika never gave up on anyone, I think. But she would confront them, not with hostility, but with just such love and compassion, and set things straight. And the last example of this that I saw was there were so many wonderful doctors and nurses and people at Sloan Kettering, but there were two relationships that kind of, I don't know what to say, but became difficult, problematic, and Monika was disappointed. And here she was in the last week of her life, and you would think, okay, I can let that go, right? But she called them in, and she had like a very, very intense conversations with both of them, and it was I was only there for one of them, but it was really extraordinary, and I'm sure changed both of their lives. Let's see. So in that letter, I think the letter really embodies Monika. The first part is her appreciation and gratitude for us, and then the second is generosity. She just wanted to share. It's not easy to share your life lessons, but I think she, and then to such a diverse group of people, but just how important, how we don't know how much time we have. Life is short, could end at any time, and how important it is. And I think she just really believed in us and gave us this message which was authentic from her experience and her good wishes for us. So then I was also asked to say something about the stupa. I asked Monika if there was anything that if people wanted to make offerings in her memory or on her behalf, if there was something in particular, and she was very happy about this idea of the stupa for world peace. And there's some little information in the back that you can read about what a stupa is, and no obligation whatsoever. It's just an opportunity. It's a very beneficial thing to do. I'm sure if she could have people do one thing, it would not be this. It would just be to be more kind to other people every day. Thank you.
You're all in for lovely treats today, musical treats, because Monika had many musician friends. And right now I'd like to call up Shirley Warren. Shirley's a member of our New Pulse Women in Black and a good friend of Monika's. And she is a composer, and she's going to be playing, I believe, some of her own pieces today.
I'll say something.
All right, I go right ahead.
I have a set of pieces that I wrote 6 or 7 years ago, and they're very short. It's called 7 Short Pieces, but I'm only going to play 3 of them, But I'm going to play a different one at first than I was going to because the piano is so out of tune that I can't play the one I was going to. But then the one I'm playing instead is called Gallop, which is really appropriate. Clifford once told us a story, and maybe this is going to be your story here, but that he took her to a fancy restaurant and she imitated a horse. And she was very good at imitating animals. So I'm going to play Gallop, I'm going to play Saraband, which is a dance, and the last piece is called Circle Requiem. They're just like a minute and a half pieces. So.
Monika was a great friend of mine, and I say that with a mixture of pride, but also humility, because Monika was, I'm sure, a great friend of every person in this room, And if she wasn't, it was because she didn't meet you. And that's just how Monika was. She made friends wherever she went. Not always long-lasting friendships, but sometimes people just need a friend for a moment. So as a friend to the grocer in the grocery store, she would strike up a conversation, and that grocery man or woman would really feel that Monika cared about him or her at that moment. And it was true, she really did care. And people were so excited to be around Monika, and I had a chance to witness that when we would make our trips down to Sloan Kettering, and I would be there with her and Will generally for the course of her treatments. And she, at one point, the doctors had been switched, and she was on a different team. And the people, the nurses and health professionals on her previous team made always sure when they heard Monika is in the building to come over and greet Monika and ask her how she was doing. And it was a really beautiful thing. So when I say that Monika was a friend of mine, I really should say Monika is a friend of mine, and I'm reminded of her daily when I stop to talk to someone that maybe in the past I wouldn't have stopped and spoken to. Maybe I speak to people even when they seem grumpy or, I don't know, contentious even. I will pursue the conversation because that's what Monika would have done. She wouldn't have said, oh, this person's too grumpy to talk to. She would have said, oh, I have to work a little harder and be more patient. And that's just who she was. So I'm reminded of her every day when I look at her artwork in my bedroom or the beautiful Buddha that she gave me that's also in my bedroom, or at the cat that used to live on her porch that I adopted in her memory, the homeless kitty. And when I go to Women in Black, and when I drive down her street and I look up at her window, it's hard to believe the other night I did that and a light was on. And it was so hard to realize that she is not in that room anymore. I so identified with her in that beautiful little space. So yeah, Monika still is my friend, and I'm sure she is still all of your friends too.
That little homeless, scraggly kitty, who now looks beautiful. And she said, and I'm calling her Moni. And Monika said, oh, I hope she behaves. She's perfect. And she's perfect.
I have a gift that I can still speak to people who don't have bodies anymore. If I'm very, very quiet. So I asked Monika if she had anything she wanted to let us know today, and she said, adventure. I'm on an adventure. So she's still having a great time, and she's, as Linda just said, she's still with us every time we think of her. And I think one of her many great gifts was that she was truly present with everybody. Everybody she met, she was there, and she saw them. And when I was with Monika, I really felt like my best self. And she accepted all of me, even the silly parts and the parts I was embarrassed about. And, you know, she saw me and she accepted all of me and she made me laugh. And I would do things that with anybody else would have seemed hard, like helping her with wound care and things like that. And with anybody else, it would have been hard. And Monika would have me laughing, and she would be wondering how I am the whole time. And and it's like, and I would joke as we were working with an incision. It's like, I'm really getting to see deep inside you now. And so, and I began to realize that time was, she was so appreciative, but I was really realizing that it was a gift to me to really have that that intense time where you kind of know maybe we'll get more, maybe we won't. So every moment's precious. And so, an embarrassing little snort, she's laughing. So it was a real gift to have that time with her and know that every moment was precious with her, and I'm so grateful.
Well, I guess I want to say something, but I know I'm going to leave mostly everything out. Monika had that way that it's easy to take her for granted. She just it let me in a way she just filled all the void for me. And I know mostly I've taken a lot of this for granted, and it's when she's not in the office now that a lot of this can be apparent. But just a few things I'd like to say is she did have this natural rhythm. I could pick it up when I'd see her turning the corner. She would walk from her home to my office, and she would come like clockwork. And I know that the day would go well. One of the most special times, not one, but in her most magic moments, and I have to say that she was really such a constantly wonderful spirit that I remember in the back of my mind. I was trying to find a button to press to, find something where she had an edge, and she really was you really saw Monika, she was really there for you. And for a lot of people who came for healing, whether they thought it was some kind of, treatment on their back or whatever, they received something else, and it's the same thing that, I felt. Occasionally, I would ask her to sing a Tibetan chant, something, and to hear her sing. Anybody hear her sing? Thank God.
Monika was very kind to me, and I always really appreciated her, and I admired her from afar. And I knew her from Mark's office, and every time I went in there, Mark had a healing office, so I would go there for different healing modalities, and it was always at a time in my life where I needed healing and I was feeling down, and she would always make me feel welcome. She would be kind, and her presence was always very beautiful and loving. And I was very grateful to know her. Thank you.
2 years ago, she had just received her diagnosis, and I've moved away. I don't live in this area anymore. But when I heard about this, I wanted to come see her. So. And I had just received sad news myself about my child becoming a drug addict. And I didn't really want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about her, and she just wouldn't speak of anything else. You know, friends were coming in and out to see her and talk to her, and it was very hard to get her. She was just so concerned about me, and that's how she always was, all the time. I hope I can rein this in for the funny stories, because it is pretty funny. So this is really a story about how innocent her spirit was and how accepting. So about 10 years ago, I baked some very special cookies. And Monika and I were going out to a cultural event, and I baked these cookies thinking it might be fun for us to eat them. We had another friend who was driving us to the event, so when she arrived, I said, "Monika, I baked some special cookies." And she said, "Ooh, special cookies. I'd love some special cookies." And she starts eating them, and she's just eating one after another. And I'm becoming a little bit alarmed, you know, and I'm like, after maybe the third cookie, I was like, "Ooh, Monika, do you think maybe you want to hold back on the cookies?" And she said, "I think I can decide for myself how many cookies." So I said, "Oh, all right. I myself feel like I can't have more than one of those cookies." But okay. So then we go to the cultural event, and she's more and more glassy-eyed and stupefied. And by the way, she kept eating cookies all the way there. You know, she found them quite tasty. And so finally something was said to somebody else where we realized she had no idea what I meant by special cookies. And she said, "Oh, I just thought you meant that you baked them like with special love and they would be specially delicious. I've never had the secret ingredient in these cookies before." And so, you know, another person might have been angry that I gave them a cookie without being more clear about what was in the cookie. And instead she just said, "Oh, I wouldn't ever have chosen to do this myself, but I'm so glad to have had this experience and know what it's like." She said, "I feel incredibly dulled. I can't imagine why anyone would do this to themselves."
One day she always had her backpack, right? And she had a rose, I don't know, probably from Clifford, and she stuck it in her backpack, and she said it made her feel even jauntier than usual. And so she was walking down the street smiling at everybody, and they're smiling back, and she's just getting off on this. And then she said she noticed people in cars going by were smiling and waving. And I just thought that was so Monika, you know? She just had that beautiful energy, and everybody felt it. And she brought so much life and light to so many. So I think right now I'd like to introduce to you another very special man, another one of Monika's men. She had a wonderful knack for picking wonderful men. Not only was she married to Will, she also was married to Andreas, who's in Germany. And I've never met him, but I've talked to him, and he was wonderful the last couple of years. He was very dedicated to her as well. And she has been with Clifford Young for 8 years, the last 8 years. And when they met, I was just so thrilled. She was so happy. And I know you brought joy into each other's lives. So I'm going to introduce Clifford, and he has a wonderful treat in store for you.
I think it is important to share the funny stories because Monika had an extremely amazing sense of humor. So I'll share 2 funny stories right off the bat. You know, when you start out a relationship, you know, this is true in high school, this is true in your 30s, this is true in your 50s, and on. One of the initial things that you do at the beginning of a relationship is that you share all of your tricks. And all of us have little tricks. You know, some of us can juggle, some of us can do ventriloquism. I make shapes with my mouth, and Monika, one of Monica's tricks. Monika had a bunch of tricks. You know, we kind of carry them around in a little suitcase. We were in a restaurant in Manhattan, and she said she can make the sound of a horse, and I was like, oh, well, that's very nice. And you know, anybody else, you know, and this was odd because initially in our conversations, you know, learning how to get to know Monika involved many, many different layers. She emphasized that she was a shy person. And okay, you know, and I could see that, and that's great. But you know, anybody else, I think, would we'd be out in a park perhaps to demonstrate her horse sound. And but no, Monika was not shy at all. She made this horse sound in this you know, Manhattan restaurant. And if any of you have not heard a horse sound, and I wish I had gotten it on tape, it was like 47 decibels, and it was like as loud as a jet engine. And in that restaurant, you know, I was, you know, sitting there, we're just eating, and then all of a sudden, and she didn't say like, okay, now I'm going to make the sound of a horse. We were just in the middle of conversation. We had sort of dropped the horse thing, and then all of a sudden, she came out with the horse sound, and it was like the whole restaurant just stopped. Everybody froze because it felt like there's a crazy person in the room. And so there was like 3 seconds where it was complete silence. And then, you know, it was New York, so everybody just went back to their meals, and nobody did anything with it. So it was like, okay. And I was just sitting there processing like crazy. This is a different kind of girl than anyone I met. So another story, and Mark jogged my brain, and it's interesting that Mark was doing something similar that I was doing. About a year and a half into our relationship, I was thinking, you know, there's something odd missing, and I was trying to figure out what it was. And what was missing was we hadn't fought about anything. We hadn't gotten into a fight. We hadn't really even argued about anything. And so, like Mark, I did something similar. I would, and I guess this says more about me than it is about her, but I would try to pick fights with her. I would say, you know, this is wrong, or, you know, I would do something, and it would just like go right over her, and it would be like, and I was like, okay, that didn't work. So I would try different things to see if there was anything that would kind of get a rise out of her. Nothing. And then finally one day I found one topic that we really disagreed on, and I was like so happy, and because it was like, okay, I found that little chink in her armor. And it was a serious topic. It had to do with, you know, the orientation of toilet paper rolls, and I discovered that she liked having it under, and I was like, okay, this is something I could really sink my teeth into. And she told me that no, you have to have it under, but she didn't give me a logical reason. And you know, I had, you know, at the ready, I had, you know, extremely cogent, logical arguments for why having it over was much preferable. And so we sort of argued a little bit for about 2 minutes, and I could see that she was probably, maybe I'm projecting, but it seemed like she was arguing more because it seemed like this was something I wanted to do rather than something she wanted to do. And then I would come up for weekends, and the next weekend the toilet roll was in the correct alignment. So I was like, well, okay, I guess that wasn't much of an argument, but we didn't really argue after that. I mean, we just never did. It was such an amazing experience to be with someone that there were no issues. There were no issues. As Barbara said, I had the delirious pleasure of being her boyfriend for almost 8 years. It sounds like we're in high school. And one of the nice things, one of the key nice thing about having that job description was that there was really only one thing I had to do. And that one thing was live for my higher self. Now, this was not something that she demanded when we first met. We met at the Central Park Zoo. This was not something that was on her Village Voice dating profile. And in fact, this is not even something that we talked about at all. This is the first time I'm mentioning it. But this notion was something that I just wanted to do. Whenever I was around her, I felt like I was living from my higher self. I felt like I was the best Clifford Young in this sector of the galaxy. And after a while, when she, kind of got under my skin, it was like, even when I wasn't with her, I still felt that, and I still feel that now. And I think this was a gift that she gave to all of us. This sense that, okay, I'm Barbara, I'm Mark, I'm Jackie, I'm Linda, I'm Sousa, but I'm the best Barbara, the best Mark, the best Jackie that can be. I mean, and it was an amazing gift. You've mentioned other things, I'll just mention one more. When I was looking for a girlfriend, I had whittled down the process. I did a lot of intense mental programming because I'm a big fan of mental programming. I did a lot of programming for several years, and I had whittled it down to 4 criteria. And one of those criteria was she had to have at least a vague interest in personal spiritual development. And let me give you a little background on myself. For, I would say, more than 4 decades, I have flirted with the notion of committing to some kind of spiritual practice. For a while, I was a member of Self-Realization Fellowship, and then I joined the Ananda group and Unity Church, and there were other groups that I was involved with for several years at a time. And then I would kind of get uncomfortable, and I would back out of it for some reason or another. And maybe there was too much praying, or you couldn't tell off-color jokes, or you couldn't be frisky. And I know this is being videoed, and Monika's mother will see this, so Margot, Sousa will explain to you what frisky means. Also, you probably couldn't eat cheeseburgers, and these were, again, it says more about me than anything else, but these were little things that would distance me from a spiritual commitment. And I think my theory is that the universe just sort of got, Clifford, enough already, and grabbed Monika and put Monika in front of me and said, and so the universe said essentially, okay, Clifford, now take a look at spiritual commitment. Okay, will you do that for me? And this was something that took a while for me to figure it out. It took several years for me to figure this out because, I was madly in love with Monika, of course, and she was in love with me, and that was great. But at the same time, I would study her, I'd watch her out of the corner of my eye. I would, sometimes I'd pretend to be reading, and I'd just watch her reading, or watch her drawing, or, it wasn't just her spiritual practice, her Buddhist practice with the cards and all that stuff. It was how she walked. I loved how she walked. When she would go to Women in Black, and I'd be continuing my practice, I'd watch her out the window every time she left, because I loved I loved how she moved through space. She had a little scamper, and it was really cute, and it was like, and I thought, that's great. So she, in essence, became sort of my teacher, and I mean, of course, she was, much farther along spiritually than I am, and, I have no idea why the universe put her in front of me, even though I profess to know. But she did, and it was an unbelievable gift. And but my point about mentioning all this is that I think one of her other gifts to us was that she made the whole notion of spiritual commitment something that looked possible. It looked doable. I'd watch her, not just in her practice, but how she interacted with people, And she had contact with lots of people. When I would, we had a long distance relationship, so I would come up on weekends and visit her, and she had all sorts of relationships with people that I didn't even know anything about. And she would kind of protect us from that. And she would, the phone would ring, and she would say, okay, I'm going to not answer that, And she, it was very, very kind that she did that. But my point is that one of the things she showed me was that, so in my mind, a spiritual commitment was something difficult. Monika showed me that, I would look at Monika and I would say, okay, if that's spiritual commitment, that's something I could do. I could do that. It doesn't look that hard. Look, all you have to do is be this, and, and have some kind of discipline or something. And I think this is another gift that she gave to all of us. This prospect that if we were exploring some kind of spiritual commitment, you'd think about Monika, because Monika was like, that looks possible. That looks like something that I could do. It doesn't look like something far off and distant. And even though we're all, sophisticated Americans of the world, it's still something that we all could do. And she acted as a model for me, and I think from your comments that I'm getting is that she acted as a model for each of you. And that was beautiful. I wanted to show you guys something. I thought you might get a kick out of it. After our first year together, Monika gave me a present, and she was always giving me presents. It was such an amazing present. It was like the most amazing present I've ever received. What she did was she took all of our emails and phone conversations and experiences together, and for each month, she created a kind of visual diary of that month. And Barbara, could you help me?
Yes.
So she did 12 of these.
So talented.
Whoa!
Oh, and this is the R-rated section of the presentation. Susan will explain what that means. Now, there's a lot of personal stuff, so I would have laid it out, but I just wanted you to get a sense of it. I mean, God only knows how much work this took. Yeah. I mean, I opened it up when she gave it to me, and I was like flabbergasted. It was like, this must have taken months and months and months, because it involved a lot of collecting and thinking about, and that's when we were in Lake Placid. We climbed a little mountain together, and we were in the rain. And this is when I was driving through a storm, and I didn't have an eye patch, but she thought of me as a pirate. Stuff like that. So it was like, it was just an amazing, cool, I was definitely one blessed guy.
Yes. This is so beautiful.
I was trying to think of a piece of music. I know this is a difficult task, but I was trying to think of a piece of music that might capture a little bit of Monika. And so in my mental archives, I thought about all the different pieces of music that I know. And one melody kept cropping up in my head. And there's an opening oboe solo at the beginning of the opera Mall of the Night Visitors. And it's a really nice solo, and for some reason, I just kept thinking about it. And this especially came to the fore when I had seen the photos of Monica as a little girl, you know, where you could see a bit of that spirit that Monica had. So I thought, okay, I made this little arrangement of that melody and a few others from A Mall of the Night Visitors. I'm joined by my colleagues Jackie Watson and Leonid Polishchuk, who's graciously agreed to join us.
I was being seen at Mark's office for treatment for Lyme, and I would lay down on the table before I had treatment, and Monika would sing to me this Tibetan chant, and I felt connected and hopeful and seen by her, and now I'm looking into the program, and it says her humming presence, and Mark mentioned her singing, and when you asked, did anyone else hear, and other people said yes, and it's so striking to me because at those moments I thought that it was for me, just for me, and she was so for me and so present with me and for me, and I realized just sitting here how she was that way with everyone, and just she had such a lovely soul, an open way, positive, hopeful spirit, and I'm just so grateful that I had those moments with her, you know, like everyone has had their moments, more brief, less, you know, longer. I didn't know her for that long, but she touched me deeply, and I'm just grateful that she was a part of my life.
So I worked with Mark and her at the Healing Arts Center, and we had a really special relationship because I needed to do a lot of processing in the early years when we were all working together, and she really listened to me so well. Like I actually needed her. You know, I really needed her to be there for about 2 or 3 years just to really hear me, and I would constantly say, I'm sorry, you know, and if there's anything I could do you want to go for a walk? Because I knew that I was really utilizing her in a way that I think she liked to be utilized, but also, you know, in a way that was a little deep, you know, for such a new connection that we had. And, you know, the thing that I think I want to express is just that when I go into the building now, I feel her. She's one of those spirits. There's a bunch of people who have passed lately who I just feel them so strongly all the time. Like I can just really like reckon into her face and her eyes and her beingness, and that's what she had. You know, I was involved in a practice with her, but she was so connected that her beingness is really here, and so I'm so grateful for that. And one other little thing is that I used to write her notes when I would leave for the day, because she would see it the next day on the little Post-its, and they were this just simplest little like smiley faces, and she would always thank me for the face, and it was just such a beautiful exchange that we shared. It was like these little things, like messages in a bottle, little tiny things that she was about, and I'm so grateful for that and knowing her. And thank you all.
I didn't really know Monika for that long, but I think she was one of those people that when you did meet her, you felt like you knew her your whole life. And I was just looking at this brochure of this beautiful picture of her, but on the back is this picture of her skipping, and I couldn't help but look that both feet are off the ground. There's no shadow. This is really Monika. Both of these sides are Monika when she's older and Monika when she was young, and that's really all I wanted to say.
Right after Monika died, the squirrels never hung out at my house, but this one squirrel kept coming over to the house and looking, and I was really sad and thinking about Monika, and the little squirrel would just like come up, and I'd open the door, and it would take, it was almost like it was a New York squirrel that kind of took the train or something, and it would take things out of my hand, and it never, that never happened. And I looked at it, and I was so taken because it really reminded me of Monika's whimsical creatures, And I said to Shada, who got together, she and a whole bunch of people got together this auction to raise money to help her over at Savant's in the Wired Gallery. And I said, Shada, this is really crazy. I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'll tell you. I feel like it's Monika. And she said, well, you know, when we did that auction, she said, you're all running around like a bunch of squirrels. And so I really did feel, and then after a little while, it just left. So I just felt like that was one of her whimsical creatures saying hello.
I moved to this area in 2000, and I decided to try to meet folks. I'd start a writers group. And Monika called me, and so I went to her house to pick her up, and she got in the car, and she gave me this smile, and I heard so clearly, oh, there you are, that I had just been waiting to see her this time around. And I just felt like we had such a deep connection, and I think it's many, many lifetimes old. And I know there are other people here who feel the same way. As a matter of fact, we're probably all connected with our past lifetimes, or we wouldn't all be here together now. But it was just so wonderful.
Aww. Oh, that's beautiful, Mom. Oh, that's a beautiful picture of her.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
That is.
Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright.
I met Monika through Dr. Jordan's office, and she was very welcoming, and I've learned a lot over the years working with Monika. She really teach me. She can push my buttons, and I learned to just walk away and come back, because she never meant anything bad. It's just I have a lot of issues I need to work through, so I really thank her for that. And she was our left and right hand and our office sunshine. We miss her very much. We have other people come and go, but no one can replace Monika. And this is a birthday card that I was going to give Monika this year. Most of you, if not all of you, know Monika loves coffee. So there's coffee out here. And on the card it says, "You're a wonderful friend on your birthday and always. You've been there to laugh with me, to be proud of me, and to be happy for all the good things in my life. And maybe even more importantly, you have shared my disappointments and listened as I worked out my thoughts and feelings about so many things that troubled me. You're a very important part of my world. And you always will be. So I want to thank you now and tell you that I hope everything will always be right with your world too, because you're such a wonderful friend. Happy birthday. Wherever Monika is.
I too connected with Monika in Mark's office, but what's coming through to me now is her sense of us reaching out and holding what's happening in Nepal in our hearts. I just feel that very strongly and wanted to say that.
All right. May war and conflict pass away. Let me do my part. May peace and justice find their way into every heart. May war and conflict pass away. Let me do my part. May peace and justice find their way. May peace and justice find their way. May war and conflict pass away. Let me do my part. May peace and justice find their way. May peace and justice find their way into every heart.
Thank you. She was just such an extraordinary person, because she, as this has also been the theme of today, was always thinking of others. She's one of the few people I know who really wanted to see my grandchildren's pictures. Oh, I could tell me everything about them. Woo, all right. She just cared immensely. And right up to her passing, she had an intention for all of us. She always said, I hope that the transformation that I'm going through, this ultimate transformation, will be the fuel to help you transform your own lives. She was always thinking of others, right to the end. And she wanted us to believe in ourselves. She wanted us to feel the energy she was so graciously giving to us and still gives to us, to be able to be our very best selves. our most peaceful, joyful, and loving selves. So that was a beautiful, beautiful gift she gave to us. And of course, her whole life, her whole being was such a gift to all of us. She just epitomized humbleness, selflessness, compassion, great joy, beautiful peace, and incredible love. So I hope that we'll remember that we carry her with us always. I know toward the end I said to her, you know, I'm going to continue the conversation. She said, you better. And I'm here, and I can communicate with everyone. So I hope you'll continue the conversation with her as well. And I think the way we honor her memory, the best way, is by being our very best selves, living our lives in the fullest, most beautiful and loving ways we can. It's how we honor our darling Monika, who we all love so much. And I know she's with us now, too.
Good.
She is.
She is.